Hey there, Mzansi. You are listening to Farmers Inside Track, proudly brought to you by Food Forum Mzansi. I am your host, Patricia Tembo, and welcome to today's episode. Our lovely farmer mentor for today is Lerato Aliu, who is the CEO of Roadgrass Investments, a commercial broiler company based in Mpumalanga and Gauteng. Lerato Aliu, welcome to Farmers Inside Track. We are so happy to have you on the show. I, for one, am excited to speak to you today.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and thank you so much for inviting me onto this podcast. Hi, everyone.
Great. So I met you recently at the Soul to Soil event and knew that we had to have you as our farmer mentor on the podcast. So today we get the opportunity to hear from you and your journey, which is so exciting. I already know that you are going to drop some gems that will be very valuable for our farming audience.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, Lerato, you are the CEO at Roadgrass Investments, but obviously you didn't start there. But before we get into that, maybe if you can give us an overview of Roadgrass Investments and just who you are and the role that you're currently playing in the farming agricultural space.
Roadgrass Investments, I guess in corporate terms, would be a broiler poultry operation, basically. But what we term it as internally is a full-time hospitality service / spa treatment for chickens. And it just gives you an idea of how we approach our day-to-day life at the farm. And our daily operations basically consists of the boring stuff, which would be feeding schedules, temperature control, biosecurity, health monitoring. But the way we approach it at work is we say we're making the chickens eat like royalty, drink like influencers, stay warm like they live in Dubai, and making sure that our guests, which are the chickens, have a day-to-day stay stress-free treatment at our facility. In a nutshell.
Yeah, luxury chicken, like the chickens are living the luxurious life, and I love that.
Trying to live the luxurious life. They're trying to find balance.
I love that. Already, reading a bit about Grass Investments, it is 100% Black-owned company. So yes. I am clapping hands. That is amazing. We always love to hear that. But maybe if you can start us off like from the beginning of your journey. You are the CEO at Roadgrass Investments currently. But how did this all start, Lerato? How did you get to this position? Were you always in farming? Maybe walk us through your background, basically.
I think it's best to start with the history of Roadgrass itself, and then I'll give you a history of myself so that you understand where I fall in. Roadgrass itself is a business that was started by mom and my dad. Both my parents were entrepreneurs in other fields. My mom was in apparel. She used to run a company that makes uniforms for airlines. And my dad was an all-rounder. He was in so many different sectors. He was director, chairman, CEO of so many different companies, the likes of MTN, Sukhosan, African Bank, New Seasons Investments. There's so many different companies that he was a part of at a high executive level, as well as running his own businesses on the side, like butcheries and etc. And it made no sense to basically be who I was in the midst. My brother studied agriculture at Sadara and naturally then joined the family business. And I was the black sheep. I was a vegetarian in a family that dealt with meat. So I was always standing against the family's income, basically. And I wanted to do everything else but be in agriculture because it just, in all honesty, it just didn't seem cool. And I guess that's the nature of agriculture as well, is that people don't deem it as something great to be part of. So that being the case, I ventured out into other things. I started off as a domestic worker for Ster-Kinekor. Highly unlikely, but it happened. Because I wanted a job and I wanted to start somewhere, start at the very bottom, if you can call it that. And I learned a lot about service from that experience. And then I went into being a dancer for the Gauteng Lions. And that taught me a lot about owning the room. Being a dancer, you're not the people who are playing the rugby and etc., but you need to form some kind of entertainment for a large group of people who are there to be entertained. And if you're shy, which I naturally am, it doesn't work. So I had to learn how to basically get over myself and train myself to say, okay, you're an introvert, but you're going to be training yourself to be an extrovert because it's necessary in every sphere. Then I went into PR as well as marketing for companies like Red Bull, JTI, Dreamcatcher, so many different other companies. And I learned a lot about the power of hiring the right team. I learned a lot about exposure and how you have to learn to adjust yourself in those spaces. And in 2020, my dad said, enough of the buffoonery. You either join the family business or we cut you off. And my brother was running a business called Hustle Burger at the time, and he would make boerewors rolls and burgers for people who have gone out. So once you leave the club, his little cart would be there for you to come and grab a boerewors roll just before you go home. And me being the vegetarian, I ate one boerewors roll and it was done. I had decided, okay, I'm convinced meat is divine. I've been missing out this whole time. And yeah, in 2020, I joined the family business as a risk manager, and I had to learn a lot about the agricultural sector, adjust my thinking, and basically that has led up to where we are today. Well, outside of the fact that, like every other agricultural story, I was in this position because of loss. We lost my brother. My brother was murdered in 2022. And my dad then passed away from cancer in 2023. I think more than anything, I think he was just heartbroken that he lost his son because they were extremely close in that way. I then got nominated by the board to be the CEO. I was reluctant at the beginning, but it made perfect sense. And that's how we find ourselves in this particular position.
There's so much to draw from what you've already said as you were explaining your journey so far. But first of all, my condolences for the loss. And I imagine just right after each other, your brother and then your father, you really had to then at the time step up into the business. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I want to go back to you being a vegetarian and that one boerewors roll that changed your life. It must have been, I don't know, touched by the heavens for you to literally go and make the switch from vegetarian to being a meat eater. That's actually quite funny.
It's because my brother was really good at making boerewors. In fact, in one of my dad's businesses, which is a butchery, it's called Suma Meat. In that business, the meat that gets sold the most basically is our boerewors, and it's my brother's recipe. And to this day, it's still thriving from that because they still continue to make the boerewors exactly how my brother made it. If that tells you anything, then you understand why I had to be like, sorry guys.
I need to try the boerewors roll because I don't eat red meat. And I haven't since to the child.
I will definitely convert you.
So let's look a little bit on in terms of the business itself, Roadgrass Investments. As you said, you focus on broiler production, A grade. Maybe talk us through the scale of the business, the production process, how you as the CEO, your responsibilities in the business. Maybe just give us an idea of Roadgrass Investments and the day-to-day work that you are involved with.
Because we're a commercial farm, my day-to-day is definitely not on the field. I'd love to be on the field more. However, that's not possible. And so my day-to-day, honestly, is definitely very boring. And I say boring, not for me, but boring for a listener because it consists more of meetings. It consists more of trying to make sure that we have enough funds to execute the things that we want to execute on the farm. It consists more of me trying to come up with strategies on how we're going to have this be a multi-generational business. So basically that's what my day-to-day consists of. But like I've said before, The staff, however, is responsible for getting those chickens inside the chicken houses, which sometimes I join in for fun, as well as the day-to-day of monitoring the feeding schedules, the water intake, the temperature control, the health monitoring, and most importantly, the biosecurity, because without that, you might as well kiss all your chickens goodbye.
It's very important. The work you do is quite interesting. Of course, you are the mind behind the business. And maybe we can draw from that yourself as the entrepreneur, really, making sure that the business remains sustainable, as you said, continues on to the next generation. So earlier you did mention how your previous experiences have sort of shaped you into the person that you are now, being an introvert and having to tap into the more extroverted, outgoing parts of yourself. I think that's a part of entrepreneurship, being able to sell the brand and to interact with clientele and just, with people, as well as being resourceful as well, is maybe something that you had to pick up on in your early years. So to be an entrepreneur and to run a successful commercial business like Roadgrass Investments, what does it take?
In my case, it takes the ability to learn, adjust, and improve. I will break that down in how I approach it. My learning is based on copying the people who are the best of the best. There's nothing new under the sun. And that is something that is very vital that people have to learn. If you want to do something, if you want to be in the poultry business, in my opinion, there's no point in trying to prove that you can be the first to do this and that. I think reach the level of success first by copying what the best of the best have done. And then from there, adjust your business and say, now we're going to add something that's a little different to tweak it and make us the first in our industry to do X, Y, Z. An example of that is that it's not that we're the first, but we're one of the few farms that have an eco-generated AI system that runs the farm. So we have two sides to our farm. The traditional side, which is your normal chicken house farms that have the curtains and etc., that have the manual feeding and etc., is called the Ashley side. And then our AI side, which is our eco houses that run automated, is called the Tabang side. So the automated AI side was my brother's idea that he brought forth to my dad. And thank goodness my dad was liberated enough to actually take that kind of suggestion, because it has improved our finances. It has improved our position in commercial farming. And it's definitely helped us basically go into the AI age in a smooth and transformative manner.
Sure, no, that's amazing already. Hopefully we'll get to touch on the technical side and how AI has, shifted and changed things for the production on the farm itself. But just backtracking with the business itself, it was founded by your parents, your brother, I believe, as well, was part of the founding. So of course, when you started, it was already standing on its own. I think it would be good if you could speak on from the point that you started to where it is now and how you have, I suppose, directed as the leader the direction that you have applied to the business, and just the difference from how it is now to where you had started.
When my parents first started the business, the focus was more on operations, as it should be, obviously, because both my parents were not farmers. So when they were there, their focus was understanding the poultry business. So there was a lot of trial and error at the time. Then my brother came in and he brought knowledge to the business because he had studied agriculture. So he then brought in expertise in that sense, but my brother was not a businessman. Then he balanced that out with my parents, where they then focused on the business angle. That led to my dad forming a fantastic relationship and getting us a really great contract with Astral, because now he had the time to do that and focus on what is going to stabilize our existence as a farm. And then my brother could then concentrate on the operations as well as on how to improve our operations. And since I have joined the business, I had to basically, one, change quite a few things. The first thing is that, and I say this with respect, men in farming don't respect females. They don't think that we know anything about farming. They don't think we know anything about business. In fact, they don't think we know anything about anything. And my mom and I were then met with a lot of resistance from all angles, except for Astral, actually, because Astral basically said, we don't care who's running the farm. We will support you guys because this farm has done extremely well for the kind of farm it is, and which I really do appreciate. But we had to do a lot of internal restructuring. We had to basically let go of male beliefs, would give directives, and it would be met with blatant disregard. Yeah. So there are managers that had to leave. There are board members that had to leave. There are staff members who had to leave. And to honestly make our lives easier, we replaced them with females. Yeah. And since we've replaced everybody that left with females, our performance has improved. We even won an award beginning of this year. We won an award for most improved farm of 2024.
Amazing. Wow. I love that.
And that kind of shows you that we might know a thing or two.
Exactly. Period.
What we're definitely working on at the moment is, like I said, the multi-generational plan going forward. There are a few things that are a bit outside of the norm, but I can't talk about them now. And I'm hopeful that we will continue our relationship. So when that finally comes out, then we can chat about it. And the most important thing that we did, and somebody else might view it as something so simple, was for us to have a website, which we brought in because my parents didn't see it as something important to talk about. But I think our story is very unique. It's worth talking about to other people. And for me, yes, great. Having a great business model is pivotal for every single in business, but a business model without anybody knowing about it basically is as good as it doesn't exist. If nobody knows about you, you're basically doing this for nothing, honestly.
I actually was going through the website and it's so well put together. I was stuck on the website. So you can see every link. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I really encourage our listeners to just go ahead and look through the websites. Pretty sure there'll be an article right up with this podcast, so I will link it as well to the article. I want to stay a bit on the restructuring that was necessary for the business to move forward and to progress. As a woman, of course, generally women in agriculture, it is a challenge dealing with misogyny, etc. So Lerato, as a leader of this really successful commercial farm, what advice do you have for women who are experiencing the pushback that you have experienced? Maybe if you have any words of insight, encouragement for a woman who's somewhat feeling almost defeated or just very discouraged at the fact that they are not taken seriously in this space.
The first thing is, I will tell you my approach. My approach is to be planted in God. If you're not planted in God in this situation, in agriculture, because nature and God go together. If you're not planted in God, who is the designer, you will struggle to have a vision of where you want to take the farm or where you want to take your particular business. And secondly, I have worked in the arts sector before on a management level and on a PR and marketing level. And one thing I dealt with is celebrities who are always very dramatic. Every little thing is about panic and they want everyone to make a fuss about them. So when you're dealing with this kind of behavior, it's good to look at people as exactly that, just dramatic children. And being a mom, I know all about it. I have a 3-year-old right now who's in that tantrum stage. If he doesn't get what he wants right now, then it's a problem. So you just got to deal with, again, it doesn't mean I don't love and respect men. I'm married to a wonderful husband and I had a great brother and I had a fantastic dad. So I respect men. It's just that in this space, you've just got to learn how to deal with them. You've got to deal with them on the sense that they're just throwing up a tantrum. So you stay calm, stay observant, Learn about the business as much as you can, every sphere. It's not just as simple as I'm just learning about how to raise the chickens. No, you got to learn about the business side. You got to learn about the finances. You got to learn about industry and what is happening. You got to learn about future trends. And I promise you it will happen. They will ask you questions trying to make you look as though you don't know what you're talking about, so that you naturally have a comeback. And you do so from a place of wisdom and a place of knowledge, and build a community of other female farmers who have done it better than you. There's nothing better than that, because one, they will be your safe space when you cry, and you will cry. If you're not crying, then you're definitely not in agriculture. You need a safe space where other women say, girl, I've got your back. And they will put on a pot of tea and you guys can share war stories and bandage each other's scars and help each other progress forward. To lastly, not compare yourself with men. Run the business like a female would. It's okay. You're not trying to be like a guy. I intentionally don't wear farm uniform that the guys wear. I get mine made. I want to be a female. I want to be a girl. I want you to know that I'm a girl, know that I'm a woman, know that I'm not going to do things the way men do it. Don't even expect that from the get-go. So I will be in a skirt. I will be in a dress. Even if I'm in a pair of pants, it's got to be cute. I've got to always look adorable doing it, because I'm a woman and that's my right.
Yes, you don't need to sacrifice one for the other. I love it.
And it doesn't matter, no matter what sector. It doesn't matter if they're going into livestock. It doesn't matter if they're going into planting. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, just do it as a female would. Don't try and compare yourself to men.
That is amazing. I'll even stop now. That's everything. But there's still so much to unpack. Looking now at some of the challenges, of course, you lost your father and your brother as well. And the grief from that obviously was difficult to go through, but it stirred something within you, of course. Maybe talk us through that challenge in itself and having to step up, but also other challenges that you may have experienced running the farm.
Grief isn't a one day you're crying and the next day you're up and you're ready to go, because there are things that those people did that nobody else could do. And it is not something that is replaceable. It is, however, a realization of, okay, they're not here. They're not gonna come back. How are we going to move forward, but still maintaining their legacy and never undermining their input into this business? And if anything, that becomes then your driving factor on a daily basis. Because then I think, goodness, I have no option but to make this business a success. Because I never want my brother to have died for nothing. I never want my dad to have had a vision for a farm and never seen it flourish the way it has. But I would rather that my mom be the witness to, wow, because she was there right from the beginning. I mean, obviously, because they're a couple, they've had pillow talks about this. So she knows the exact way my dad pictured this farm. And I want to exceed her expectations of what she and my dad had initially wanted for this farm. That then becomes a way of, how do we scale this in a way that my parents have never even envisioned, and still maintaining their legacy and making sure that that legacy is also transferable as commodity, because people don't consider things like that. And I'll tell you where it plays a part. My dad was so good at what he does business-wise, in terms of how to handle people, in terms of his competency in its entirety, that no matter where I go, people already know that I'm cut from a safe cloth. And that's very important when you are running a business, especially if you have children. You have to think about what would happen if I pass on. What kind of legacy am I leaving behind? And he's left the kind of legacy that allows me to walk into the room, and people then don't look at your CV. They look at what other lessons must you have learned simply by just being around this person day to day. And that opens more doors than you would ever imagine. And that's important when creating your business. That's why I said it's more than just about raising chickens, because now I have the responsibility of not only keeping that up, but improving on it for my own children, that when they come in and run this business, that it's basically a known fact to say these ones are competent. They are brilliant at what they do in this particular sphere. And we welcome them with both arms.
It's beautiful. So, maybe looking at legacy, your father left a legacy that you were able to walk in. What legacy are you wanting to leave behind for the generation to come?
My dad was about earning everything, and I want to leave a legacy, like I said, of learning, adjusting, and improving, and making sure that my kids understand that none of those things are possible without being planted in God, as I've said, because they will never have to learn the mistakes that we make. Not to backtrack, but one of the things that I remembered that we really struggled with after my dad passed, that my dad had hired people according to his friendship with them in other businesses and not necessarily the competency in farming itself and running the business in farming. We had an accountant who was a great accountant in other spheres. However, when it came to running our business, he ended up putting us in a situation where we were in debt with SARS for 13 million rand. Crawling out of that, and I really mean crawling out of that, had to take being creative, being patient, and being resourceful. Yeah. And I would never have learned that anywhere else had my parents not taught me that from their experiences in their businesses. So that is one of the things that I also came through and added into the business is financial stability. For me, that's very important. If you don't have that sorted, that could honestly be the end of your business.
That is something that we also have other guests repeat constantly on the podcast as well. So definitely it's a foundational principle, as you've said. And maybe now looking at the facility, I know we went deep into the deep stuff. I was hoping also we'd touch on technology and innovation, as you spoke now, needing to be creative as well. On the farm, I know Roadgrass Investments has 2 facilities. Mm-hmm. Maybe talk us through each facility, what those facilities are focused on. You did touch on that earlier, but maybe starting with the Ashley farm, that facility itself, and then we can go to the Thabang farm, which I believe is named after your brother. Talk us through those 2 facilities.
So the Ashley side, which is the manual side, it's our more traditional side, as I've said, and it's more labor intensive. They have to be the ones who roll up the curtains to lay ventilation through. They have to be the ones who pour the coal into the stoves to make sure that the temperature is correct. And they have to be the ones who pour the water into the feeders and etc., as well as the food. But that is where we make every staff member start. Because if you don't learn that foundation, then you won't appreciate and respect the other side of the farm. It's very important for them to learn that. Yeah. Because, like I said, it's like saying starting from the bottom. It's very important. If you don't learn those things, then you just have this generation of farmers who think they can just do everything via AI and via remote control, and they don't learn anything. They don't learn that with chickens are sensitive to your energy. So you can't go in there after you've just had a breakup with your boyfriend, your girlfriend. You maybe want to take a couple of days off, get through that emotional state, and then come back and deal with the chickens. Because we might laugh, but it really does affect the chickens emotionally. And you only see it when the chickens are a little older and it's time to now prepare them for leaving the farm, and they start dying off. And you have no idea why they're dying. But it was that particular day where they weren't treated too well because you were just in an emotional state. Animals are very sensitive in that way, and chickens are very fickle. You have to have that kind of experience, and then, which then leads you to our eco side, which is the Thabang side, and all the houses on the Thabang side are run by AI systems that basically let you know if the temperature is a bit off, or they beep if there's an emergency that you have to come and sort out, if there's lack of water, if the pH balance within the water is incorrect, or things of that nature. Honestly, AI has helped us a lot However, it is not as labor intensive on the Thabang side, which is concerning because going forward, it's obviously going to get better and better. AI systems are going to get increasingly more progressive, but we are trying to work on a strategy to still keep the staff that we have, because we never want our staff to not have jobs because now AI is running everything. Even when we hire staff, we want to train staff into other things as well, so that once we no longer need them to be inside the chicken houses, there's other things around the farm that they can be involved in that still makes them an integral part of the farm's growth.
In terms of, I suppose, job creation, that is still maintained while progressing with technology. For our listeners, the facilities together run at 600,000 chickens per site. So just to give an idea of like the scale of farming that, Lerato is leading. Lerato, you're doing really amazing. It's exciting to have you, as our young, fabulous farmer mentor for today. I love it.
Hold on to my youth as much as possible.
Definitely. So the farm is situated in Mpumalanga, if I'm not mistaken.
It's actually situated on the border of Mpumalanga and Gauteng. So we run both on Gauteng and Mpumalanga. The Ashley side is on Mpumalanga and the Thabang side is on Gauteng. Not to say Mpumalanga is backward.
So the automated side is
I don't want to start any wars.
That is so interesting. This is such a unique farm with a unique story. Wow. The communities that the farm is situated in, are you employing from the surrounding communities?
Yes, we actually made a conscious effort to do so. And what we do is we involve ourselves with agricultural schools on both sides. And we then take up students and they come to our farm and they stay with us basically anything from 6 months to a year. And once we see phenomenal talent or just something a little different, a little bit of je ne sais quoi in somebody, we then offer them a permanent job, not even semi-permanent or whatever. We offer them permanent jobs on the farm. And that's how we do things. Kids from Mpumalanga who are studying, they get hired on the farm. Kids from Gauteng who are in agricultural schools, we hire them as well. We had a lady whose story is very different to everybody else because everybody who was hired from our farm, on our farm, was once a student and then they got hired. And her story is different. She asked my dad to be a domestic worker on the farm. And she's not the only one. There's actually 2 gardeners as well who came in initially as staff to maintain the grounds, basically. And we taught them how to farm chickens in a commercial manner. They went through the same process as all the other students, and now they are part of production. They've been promoted from their initial positions. So that's kind of what we also try to do, to say whatever you started as is not something that you're going to end up as. All our managers, every single one of our managers started as students, as interns, and now they are the executive management team.
Wow.
So it basically kind of tells you what we do. And again, they're from Mpumalanga and Gauteng.
And that's so important, of course, looking at the graduate unemployment levels that we have in the country and the role that you're playing through Roadgrass Investments in mitigating that and giving those students a place to apply their skills to actually go out, well, equipping them with the skills, but also reabsorbing them into the business. That's amazing. And so, of course, that means you do work with maybe aspiring farmers who are learning from yourself, learning from the business, or just agriculturalists who are working for Roadgrass Investments. So to the younger audience or to the younger listeners, what would your advice be for them to be successful in running their own business? So from a young person who's maybe starting off with not much, not really anything, what would be the most important thing for them to know from your experience?
The first one being, be willing to learn. We've experienced this where we've had students come in And when we're trying to train them in a certain way, they're like, wow, that's not the way I learned it. That's great, but we're not learning here. We're already doing it. So be willing to learn. And secondly, and most importantly, form a relationship with your supportive groups, if you may call them that, your Astral, your IDC, your land banks, those kinds of supportive businesses, because they're there for a reason. They already know you don't have enough money to start your own business. Form a relationship with your land banks of the world and find out, hey, if I have a dream and I have a business plan, this is what I want to do. How do I go about getting some land, and what is it going to take? How much am I going to have to bring forth? How much are you guys willing to bring forth? Are there any student benefits? Find out what products that they offer that will help you get your dream off the ground. Research is important. IDC helped us in a major way. They gave us a grant as well as a loan to expand and scale our farm further. And if it wasn't for them, again, we wouldn't be where we are today. To give you an example, houses on the Ashley side, they basically house about 20,000 to 25,000 chickens in each house. But in order for us to scale our business, we wanted bigger houses. We wanted more space to house more chickens, which will eventually mean more profit. Yeah. And we needed the money to do so. We didn't have the money. IDC helped us. They gave us the grant. What's important is for you just to even apply for such things. Again, your finances need to be recorded. They need to see how you handle the money around the farm in order for you to qualify for those things. So always record your finances, always. Personal finances as well as your business finances. And they helped us out with a loan and grant. And basically the houses that we have now built can house 2 to 3 times more chickens than we used to before. And again, if you don't have the support of a fantastic supplier, Astral has been a great supplier of A-grade chickens for our business. Otherwise, you're going to run around trying to find people who can supply you with day-old chickens, and people will lie to you. They're not reputable. Somebody just wants to get rid of their chickens. So rather go to somebody who has a great reputation. Then if you can't afford their particular chickens, they can direct you to where you can go to at your particular financial level at that moment.
No, very important. Thank you for sharing that, especially the importance of actually record keeping and keeping track of where money is going in the business. That is very important.
And your own personal finances. I mean, I think we've seen in the news that what you do with your personal finances is just as important as what you do in your business. Because people will check those kind of things. Are you buying Lamborghinis? What are you doing with the finances that you then inherit as your salary? Yes. That's important too, because that will speak a lot about what you're going to do regarding the business and your initial intention for what you're doing this business for. If you're doing it for the money, you'll struggle. Yeah. Honestly, if you're doing it for the money, yes, you'll be successful because there is a lot of money in this business, but you will close very, very quickly. If you don't learn that you're doing it for things that are much more than just material goods, then you'll close just as quickly as you open.
Yeah, this is very insightful, Lerato. Wow. I'm just listening to the story of your farm and I'm just like, no, I need to have this chicken.
Astral comes and takes their chickens. Yes. They supply Goldie. They supply Festive.
That's amazing.
There's a lot out there, guys. Just do your research. As much as people research all the other industries, just research which companies get supplied by Astral. And then it will inform your buying pattern. Then you know, okay, when I buy this particular brand, it's A grade. When you put it on frying pan or in the oven or whatever, it doesn't shrink because they're using all kinds of steroids. So avoid that nonsense.
So you'll know that your chicken is ethically produced and also sustainably produced, which is amazing.
Yes, don't eat anything that's cancer causing. I mean, my dad died from cancer, but it was lung cancer. That's because he was a smoker. But it was definitely never going to be from feeding habits. Never that.
Lerato, thank you so much. It's been such an honor to listen to Roadgrass Investments story and the role that you are playing in it, in carrying your father and brother's legacy as well. So thank you so much for sharing on Farmers Inside Track. And yeah, we're looking forward to hearing more from you in the future as well. I know that, as you said, there is something in the pipeline, so we'll be looking out for that. It was such a pleasure speaking to you, and I know our farmers listening, there's something for everyone in this episode, really. You know, from women to young farmers to farmers who are wanting to just improve in financial management, etc., technology, all of that. So thank you so much, Lerato.
Thank you so much for an awesome interview. You make being part of an interview feel very natural, and it's not normally what I do. So this is literally the second interview I've ever done, because normally I don't feel comfortable doing things like this. But like I said, it's important to come out of your shell. And when we have people like you, you make it much easier. You just make it seem as though, I'm just having a chat with my sister about what's going on at work. And please do check out our website and follow us on Instagram as well. It's roadgrass.com. And yeah, check us out on Instagram. We are trying to grow our page slowly, but surely.